Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content that I'm making, please click that subscribe button. Also remember to click that bell button and make sure to tick that box to send all notifications so you don't miss out on any videos. With that in mind, let's get on with the video. What's up guys, welcome to Monchkinz Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Monchkinz logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. And welcome to my video guide on Agrias' Lost Chapter, Knight's Honor, Part 16 Hard Mode, and of course this is going to be the Chaos level fight. So without further ado, we have a lot of things to go through, so let's get on with this video. And of course we are going to start this video off with the last boss's weaknesses, resistances, and elements it can absorb, and of course its abilities as well. And this time it's going to be the Argent Efficient. So the Argent Efficient has a weakness to water. It doesn't have any resistances, but boy does it have a lot of elements that it will absorb. And these are fire, ice, earth, wind, and dark elements. As for its abilities, it has its normal brave attack, which is a magic brave attack, magic shot, which is a magic HP attack, firewall, which is a group fire magic brave attack, flare star increases its brave, then does a group magic brave attack plus HP attack. This also has a high turn rate. Next is thunder spear, which is a thunder magic brave attack, which also has a high turn rate. Spear Arts, which is a magic brave attack plus HP attack, which can inflict the initial brave down and attack down debuffs. Globated Crush, this is only used when it's levitating. Basically it will recover itself from its break status and will increase its brave and will do a magic HP attack. It will touch down after he uses Globated Crush. Next up is the Tri-Element, which is a magic brave attack and can inflict a couple of different debuffs such as speed down, defense down, and magic resist down as well, and this has a high turn rate as well. Next is Assault Lance. This is only This is only used when it's levitating as well. This is a very powerful magic brave attack. Next, a couple of texts that you will see. The first one is Begins Chanting. This will make the Argent Efficient levitate, and it will remove all the debuffs including framed ones, and it will increase its brave. The next one is Begins a Powerful Chant. This basically again will levitate itself, it will remove all the debuffs, and it will increase its brave, as well as granting a lot of buffs including defense up, attack up, speed up, initial brave up, max brave up, and this has a low turn rate. Next is Bursting with Magic Energy, which basically just raises its attack and its defense. Now there are a few more texts that you will see, which is only seen, I do believe, in the Chaos level. The first one is Concentrating, which basically just raises its attack, defense, speed, initial brave, and max brave again. And there's a further Concentrating, which basically just raises the stat even further than the Concentrating. And the Argent Efficient has a low resistance to the Paralyzed debuff. Alright, so now that we know the weaknesses, resistances, elements that the boss can absorb, and as well as their abilities, it's time to take a look at some general tips and guide. And the first one for you guys here is to save about 70% of your abilities for the last boss. And if you can get away with it, you know, maybe even 80%, but around 60 to 70% is the ballpark you want to save all your abilities for each character. The bosses do have a ton of HP, and there are 2 of them, so you're gonna need every ability that you can get. Next is to bring in the boosted character. Now there are only 3 this time around, as well as any Lost Chapter. In this Lost Chapter, it's going to be Agrias, of course, she is the featured character. Next is Faris, and of course Ash. Now other characters that you may want to consider bringing are going to be Ultimisia, Sarah, Fang, Lilith, Kuja, Ramza, or even Cloud. As for healers plus Brave Battery options, I do feel like Charlotta is probably the best choice here, although Porum can certainly help with the high max Brave that these bosses have and a lot of Brave shaving that you will need to do. Porum is just not the character I would highly recommend here. Now as for these summons, you do have Ramuh and Leviathan as your option for this one, seeing as the boss can absorb a lot of the elements. Okay, so now that we have a general idea who we want to bring, let's take a look at some general strategies. As you guys can see, I have renamed this side because I feel like it's not more tips anymore, but more of a strategy. Now let's take a look at the first one. Is of course going to be for your friend support. It's going to be Charlotta or Agrias. Now in all honesty, I feel like these two are the best friend support that you can bring for this lost chapter. Charlotta if you want to nuke the hell out of the enemies and of course the bosses, and Agrias if you want to be safe, seeing as she can inflict silence and of course can paralyze as well, although you may need a little bit of luck unless you use her level 65 crystal passive, but that will take up a turn as a friend support. Now the second one is to bring a debuffer, preferably someone that can apply 2 to 3 debuffs on their abilities and obviously inflict that on the enemies. The reason for this is basically when the Argent Efficient will do begins a powerful chant, basically he will have up to 5 buffs up. So that leaves one space for a debuff that you can apply that won't disappear. Well, it will disappear because it can remove all the debuffs, but you get what I mean. You have one space for a debuff and you need a second one. So for example, if you're just gonna paralyze, it's not gonna do anything good because that buff, the defense buff, will still be there. The idea is to remove that defense buff, I'm getting confused now, is to remove that defense up buff so you can brave shave efficiently against this boss. Because let me tell you, when they go down to red health and they have this buff, no matter what character you have, unless it's a gravity based character, you're just gonna do once because their defense are sky high. Now my next strategy or tip, I suppose, whatever you want to call it, is to add some characters that can obviously paralyze and of course can silent as well, because these are going to be your best friends, because this will avoid death basically. The next one is to bring a gravity based character like Ultimisia to help burn down the boss's high brave. Now at the moment we do have only a few options in terms of a gravity based character, and the most popular one is going to be Ultimisia and the second one is Charlotta. Now Bartz can have some brave, gravity based abilities as well, but he's not really that popular at the moment because he's still at level 60 and I don't know how well he's going to do in this one. And the other one is Gilgamesh, which honestly no one will ever really will really bring in this fight. Now the last one is, of course, you're gonna have to have some luck, because sometimes you're gonna have to pray that that paralysis that you didn't put any debuff up or whatever, hope and pray that those paralyze the bosses so you get a free turn. So because every single turn is going to matter for this fight. Okay, so now that we have the general gist of the strategy, let's take a look at some possible party compositions. The first one is going to be the boosted team, which consists of Agrias, Faris, and Ash, and this is with an Agrias support and a Ramuh summon. Now basically the idea here is for you to time both Agrias's silence and paralysis. So I do highly recommend like switching out your own Agrias and using your friend support Agrias. This way you can sort of cycle your way through a lot of the paralysis. You can time it properly, but obviously you can also take out Ash and just use your friend support to do the silencing and do all the, do the maximum damage as you can with 2 Agriases in your party. Now Faris is here. She's a good debuffer and also can dispel any buffs that the boss will have, so she's a really good character to bring here. And Ash, well, she can also paralyze with her EX. I definitely recommend having Ash's EX if you do want to attempt this. I did attempt this with this fight with this team, and I did manage to beat it. However, I didn't make the turn count. I was at 81, so I was 1 off, and obviously I didn't get the high score because I was over the turns anyway. But overall, I think it is very doable. The time that I attempted it, I didn't max out my Agrias and my Faris's summon board, and I can't remember on top of my head if my Ash is full on with her summon board as well. So overall, I think this is a very viable team. Okay, the next team that I would recommend is going to be Agrias Faris with Ultimisia, and this is with an Agrias support, and again Ramuh for the summon. This is basically the video that you guys are seeing. Basically, the strategy for this is almost identical to the composition 1, the party composition 1. And basically, you're just trying to save Ultimisia's skill 2 for those brave shaving for later on, especially when the bosses have the high brave and they start levitating. You really want to use that skill 2 for Ultimisia and, gravity down those high brave so you can break them, and therefore they won't do too much damage even with their globated crush. So that's the general gist of this. Again, just time your silences and paralysis with 2 Agriases, and Faris just there for the debuff basically. Now for my team 3 composition, you have Agrias, Cloud, and Ramza with a Charlotta support and Leviathan for the summon. So this team is a bit unique. You don't really have a dedicated debuffer, so be careful with this team. Again, no dedicated debuffer, so time those paralysis and silences, especially if you only have 1 Agrias on your team. Now obviously Charlotta can be replaced with an Agrias as well, but if you want to nuke down the bosses, then obviously Charlotta is the way to go. Now Cloud can also remove the buffs of the boss and can also paralyze, but in order for Cloud to remove those buffs, he will need his World of Illusion weapon, so you need to max that out and make sure you have that passive for Cloud in order for him to remove that defense up buff, so you can start brave shaving the boss. And obviously he has 100% paralysis if you time it with his finishing touch. Obviously is going to help you out. Now ideally you would switch out your Ramza for Charlotta and time her EX with both Agrias and Cloud's EX for maximum damage. Now my final team composition for you guys is going to be another unique one. This includes Sarah, Charlotta, Ultimisia with an Agrias support and Leviathan summon. Now the idea here is basically Sarah is your dedicated debuffer, and Charlotta and Ultimisia both have a sap-like debuff as well, especially and I do believe it's Charlotta's HP attack plus, and that would be Ultimisia's skill 2. So if you apply both those debuffs, they will have a sap-like effect, therefore lowering the max brave of the boss as well. And of course, Sarah's poison and her unique debuff, as well with her EX ability is also a sap-like effect, basically reducing down the boss's high brave essentially. So the idea here is to switch to to Agrias only in an emergency. Basically, if you know you have no way to Brave Shave or you won't be able to survive like a globated crush, I would highly recommend like switching to your friend Agrias and silencing or even like trying to paralyze the boss effectively. And of course, you have Ultimisia and Charlotta here. Basically, they have the gravity based abilities to cut down the boss's high brave. Now, I do believe Charlotta will reduce the enemy's brave 1/5 of their brave, I believe, so that is pretty high. So I do highly recommend using and timing them very well. Now obviously you want to use the Charlotta's EX as much as possible because it will increase your damage output. That's why you have a backup Ultimisias there in case you missed out on using Charlotta's or missing the timing for Charlotta's EX. Okay, so we're finally at the end of this video, and of course I will give you guys my final thoughts for this fight. Now, in all honesty, I was preparing myself for this lost chapter. I told myself I will get Agrias' EX, and I would even get Faris' EX in order to make this fight manageable. And honestly, with these two characters plus Ultimisia, it was pretty smooth sailing, I would say. It's not really hard, but it's not easy either. So, but that's only because I have these three characters. If you don't have like Agrias and you're relying on someone's Agrias, this fight can be a total nightmare. Now, I was already preparing myself, like I mentioned earlier, for this lost chapter. I was, ready. I was like, I'm definitely gonna get Agrias EX no matter what happens. I'm gonna pour all my resources trying to get it because I don't want the same thing to happen to me previously. So, even though my fight was smooth sailing, yours can be totally different if you don't have Agrias. And again, I'm not saying it's impossible because it is possible. Just like my fourth party composition, it didn't have any main Agrias. You just have to have a friend Agrias and you should be fine. However, you do have to have a very good debuffer for this fight. Sarah or even Lilith, can do pretty well. Even Fang can do pretty well on this fight. If you max limit broke her, she can actually hold her own on this one, and she will be a lot helpful with her debuffs. Now unfortunately with Fang, she can only debuff one at a time. However, she does have that chase mechanic. That's why I did add her, even though she's not ultimately the best debuffer. If I have to pick, it's going to be Faris or Lilith at this point in time. But anyway, those are my final thoughts. Basically, this fight is in the manageable department if you have your own Agrias and of course max out your summon boards and stuff like that. But if you don't have your own Agrias, this fight can be a total nightmare. Now, I think I will end the video right there, so please be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I have met the 1,200 subscribers, so thank you very much for everyone who have subscribed. I really do appreciate all the support that you guys bring out in the comment section below. Every single one that says, this guide really helped me out. I'm really glad it really does help out other people, and by clicking a like on this video, you can help this video to spread along and with the YouTube algorithm. So for those players who are struggling, they can check out this video and hopefully it helps them as well. Make sure to follow me on my social media. I am on Facebook and I'm also on Twitter. If you have any questions, you can ask me there or leave down in the comments below as well. I am there at Monchkinz Gaming, so follow me or add me as a friend, doesn't matter. If you have questions, I'm more than welcome to answer you as soon as I can. And one last thing, be sure to leave down in the comments below which team did you use to beat this lost chapter. Did you bring your own Agrias? And if you have any other different party compositions, you're more than welcome to leave it down in the comments below. This is Monchkinz logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.